We're down to the last quarter of the year as we reach the final stretch of this Motoring Today special episode.
Manila is ending the year much like it started, working to convince tricycle and pedicab drivers and operators to shift to electric-powered trikes. The mayor appears resolute in becoming the first city in the country to totally ban gas-powered tricycles and kuligligs. A pilot program is being undertaken in Binondo to help drivers afford owning an e-trike, while charging stations are established in the district with the cooperation of Meralco.
Manila is also intensifying its drive to rid its streets, especially in secondary roads, of illegally parked vehicles and other obstructions, shutting down illegal transport terminals, and driving off illegal vendors from sidewalks. The city government is adamant on imposing a zero-tolerance policy against illegal vendors. The mayor also remains adamant about banning the operation of private towing firms in his city.
In the House, another party-list representative filed a bill that would make it safer and more convenient for persons with disabilities to move around the city. Representative Nicole Catera filed House Bill 168, the Audible Signals Act.
P2P buses are getting to be more popular. More and more people are taking them, enjoying the faster and more comfortable ride. Some P2P routes are now using beep cards to make it more convenient for passengers to pay for their rides. Great for regulars who are taking them every day.
There may be a debate going on among traffic authorities. First, we get a report that the Transport Department is considering to stop the implementation of the Unified Vehicle Volume Reduction Program, in place for years now, because some studies suggest it does not significantly reduce the number of vehicles on the streets to significantly ease congestion. Soon after, the Transport Department announced it is removing the window hours in the coding scheme on EDSA and C5.
A dry run was held for the no window hours coding on EDSA, resulted in cutting travel time by 3 minutes. The no window hour coding was also implemented on C5, Ross Boulevard, and the Alabang Zapote Road. Soon enough, more streets and major thoroughfares were included in the no window coding scheme, with the hours extending from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And when transport authorities announced that doctors, seniors, and persons with disabilities are exempted from the coding, the MMDA was swamped with applications for exemptions.
Many motorists complained on social media about the expanded coding hours, questioned the necessity of UVRRP, and if it really helps reduce congestion. Meanwhile, the Alliance of Concerned Transport Operators proposed to have coding days extended to 24 hours and that the UVVRP should be implemented metro-wide on all streets without exception. Actual leaders believe this would really decongest traffic and would help its members earn more. Thankfully, this sentiment is not shared by other transport groups.
The traffic along Sucat Road has gone from bad to worse that the local government is finally imposing a coding scheme. For years, Parañaque was one of the cities in Metro Manila that did not implement the UVVRP or coding scheme. That ended in the fourth quarter of 2016 with the mayor banning vehicles from city streets from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at least once a work week, depending on the end number of their license plate or conduction sticker if they still don't have the plates.
Despite being given added responsibilities in managing traffic, the Highway Patrol Group claims the number of carjacking cases has gone down compared to last year.
The IACT is working double time to get Metro Manila local government working together to solve most of the traffic problems of the metropolis, including the problem of instilling discipline among motorists, both private and in public transport. It has gotten the Metro Manila Council to approve a proposal to raise the maximum allowable fine for traffic violations from 2,500 to 5,000 pesos.
With traffic getting worse and expecting to worsen even further as the Christmas holiday approaches, salons in the House are coming up with truly out-of-the-box solutions, including getting companies to release the mandated 13th month pay earlier. They're thinking, with Christmas bonus coming early, people would do their shopping earlier, and traffic won't be as terrible during the holidays itself. Earlier in the Senate, a senator suggested getting schools to take an earlier Christmas holiday break as a measure to ease traffic congestion during the holidays.
The MRT3 reports that it is opening more trains, not with the trains from Dalian, but with refurbished, repaired, and overhauled trains. The repair work was conducted by Busan Universal Rail, the joint Philippine-Korean group contracted to maintain the MRT3 trains. It reports that when it was hired, only 13 trains were running. Now 18 trains are in operation, cutting down waiting time at stations and easing crowding in trains.
It is later revealed that while the past administration ordered trains from China, they needed power trains and signaling systems and thousands of kilometers of testing before they could be introduced into operation. Another problem is the need to upgrade the power supply system in order to run more trains. This means the MRT needs to bid out a contract for a power supply upgrade.
Members of the Electric Vehicles Association of the Philippines believe that it has succeeded in convincing more and more local government units and private groups to try e-vehicles for short-distance travel needs, and that it is poised to become a major component of the local mass transport industry in the near future.
A bridge and tunnel system connecting Cavite to Bataan is among the more ambitious proposals that surfaced in the wake of the assumption of the Duterte presidency. A former chairman of the Subic Bay Metropolitan Authority, Felicito Payumo, proposed the construction of the Trans-Manila Bay crossing, which starts with a bridge or underwater tunnel from Naik in Cavite to Corregidor and then a bridge spanning Corregidor to Mariveles in Bataan. The crossing could see fewer vehicles needing to pass through Metro Manila in going from south to North Luzon.
The MMDA is moving to expand the Pasig River ferry network, adding stations in Eastwood, Marikina, and Taytay, with plans to extend this farther to communities around Laguna Bay. MMDA Chairman Thomas Orbas says meeting with private sector showed there is much interest in increasing the number of ferries in operation. It is also looking into the possibility of establishing an intermodal network of transport services linked to the ferry system.
The MMDA also reports the no-contact apprehension scheme is successful in catching a lot of traffic violators, but sees a need to fine-tune and make the process of recording, citing, and getting the citations or summons served on traffic rules violators faster and more efficient.
The LTFRB conducted surprise inspections of buses at terminals during the days before the Undas and found some buses were not roadworthy enough to be safe for passengers. The inspections also discovered buses without the proper registration and franchise documents. The LTFRB said the buses with deficiencies were not allowed to ply their routes until the necessary repairs were made.
In Quezon City, traffic aides have begun to strictly implement the yellow box rule at intersections. Motorists caught inside the box blocking the path of other vehicles within the intersection will be cited and fined. It will also be strict with vehicles straddling pedestrian lanes. The city has also established a CCTV network and monitoring center that could rival those of the MMDA.
Government efforts to convince jeepney drivers and operators that its plan to phase out old and dilapidated units is not aimed at destroying their livelihood may be working. The government has been meeting with drivers and operators to inform them of various funding programs to help jeepney operators replace old units with newer and better alternatives that meet government safety and fuel emission standards. Some groups, including the Federation of Jeepney Drivers and Operators Associations of the Philippines, now plan to benefit from the programs.
Late into the fourth quarter of the year, the MMDA was again given the primary role of leading efforts to manage traffic in Metro Manila, and particularly on EDSA. Among the first actions of the MMDA was to again strictly enforce the designated motorcycle lane on EDSA. However, this time, MMDA said motorcycle riders can take another lane beside motorcycle lane on EDSA during rush hours. Riders are also reminded about wearing proper attires and certificated helmets, and encouraged to use reflectorized vests and to keep headlights uneven during daytime.
Next, the MMDA moved to regulate how funeral carriages are run in Metro Manila and prevent them from moving slow or blocking intersections. Also, the MMDA is moving to ban funeral carriages on major thoroughfares. Motor vehicles and funeral carriages must still obey traffic signs and signal lights.
The MMDA also came out in support of Senate Bill 1231, the Road Safety and Comprehensive Drivers Education Act, filed by Senator Grace Poe, which seeks to make basic road safety and comprehensive drivers education integrated into the K-12 education system. Military camps answered the call for help from transport authorities to decongest traffic on EDSA, opening Camp Aguinaldo to private motorists, although they need to apply for stickers or passes to do so. The Bonifacio Naval Station in Taguig followed Camp Aguinaldo's example and opened its gates to private motorists who still needs to apply for passes.
After more than a year in office, transport authorities are still looking for ways to completely solve the backlog in the issuance of license plates and license cards. The license cards are easier to solve as all it needs is to negotiate a contract with a supplier. But the license plates backlog is more problematic as the Commission on Audit must resolve the problem of the notice of disallowance it issued against the license plate supply contract with Power Plates Development Concepts and Dutch company Nerium BV Goes.
A bill was finally filed in the House that incorporated much of what transport authorities said they needed as part of the emergency powers for solving the traffic crisis and establishing an efficient mass transport system in Metro Manila and two other major urban centers, Cebu in the Visayas and Davao in Mindanao. But HB 4334, entitled the Transport Crisis Act of 2016, Makiisa, Makisama, Magkaisa, spawned fears that the extensive and expansive power given to the president and his transport secretary could be misused and abused, as the emergency powers include the power to cancel franchises and contracts for projects already in implementation, could lead to massive layoffs and loss of livelihood for drivers, operators, and conductors.
The Department of Transportation has revealed plans to expand the network P2P bus services to encourage more people to leave their cars at home and take premium bus services to work and back. To make it meet the needs of executives needing to travel to meetings across the metropolis, the Transportation Department is planning to bid out more P2P routes that link prime residential communities and malls to central business districts.
The North Luzon Expressway opened an additional carriageway to make it more convenient for motorists to get into and out of the northern ends of the NLEX. The carriageway was finished ahead of schedule so as to meet the increase in the number of motorists traveling to the north and back during the Christmas holidays.
The Duterte administration appears to be moving to spend a record-breaking slice of the national budget for roads, bridges, railway systems, and other infrastructure projects aimed at improving the mass transport network nationwide. The government said it plans to spend 5.4% of the gross domestic product for a comprehensive nationwide infrastructure program in 2017.
Well, we've come to the end of our look back into the very colorful year that was in motoring, the year 2016.